Everyone, thanks for jumping into today's session. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes until everyone jumps in, but what you should currently see right now is the big green Safe Food Pro webinar screen. You should also have a chat little button and a Q&A button. So if you could give me a thumbs up or just a wave in the chat, just to make sure that you can hear me and see the things that you need to see, that would be really helpful. Thanks, Raveen, that's amazing. Awesome. And I'm just going to mute myself and just turn my video off just for about 30 seconds to make sure everyone has some time just to get into the Zoom, and then I'll be able to get started straight away. So yeah, feel free to jump in the chat and I will be back in about 30 seconds. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. There's heaps of you jumping on today, so this is super exciting. I'll just pop a message into the chat as well. All right, and I will turn my camera back on. Perfect. Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to get straight into it. As for a lot of you, you might know we have quite a bit to cover today. But what we will be doing is now weekly webinars for Safe Food Pro. So this is for anyone in our customer base who either wants to learn more or just go through the basics to make sure that you have covered off all of those correct parts of your onboarding journey to make sure that you're doing the right things to get the most value out of Safe Food Pro. If anyone's been with Safe Food Pro for a while, it's awesome to have you here. I will be going through most of the basics, but hopefully you might learn a thing or two in the session. And you'll also have the opportunity to do questions throughout. So even if you're, having a week using Safe Food Pro and you find you've just got a few questions that you want to throw out in a Q&A, feel free just to pop into the back end of the session and just jump into that Q&A session so you can have that live feedback on the questions you may have as well. So please feel free to jump into the session every week if you'd like to. We absolutely love when people do that, so don't be shy. And we'll also be looking at introducing additional webinars more on monthly topics coming up soon as well. So stay tuned for that too. Awesome. So to get straight into it, I will be going through the Safe Food Pro account today. So as if you're a new person, so if you've recently just taken over a Safe Food Pro account, this will also be really helpful for you as well. This will be hosted and stored in our new video education center that I will show you later today as well. And yes, so I'll be walking you through both the computer logins, the admin console, and the mobile app. We'll have that Q&A session, and then I'll be able to show you everything you need on how you can get more support, more help, and learn more exciting things towards the end of this session today as well. So for those of you who haven't met me, my name's Sophie. I run the customer success and support team here at Safe Food Pro. So yeah, you won't see me too much in our one-on-one catch-ups, but I'll be here to host the webinars to make sure you get everything you need to learn about where you need to go to make sure your food safety is having a really great process internally in your business. So yeah, any questions, do not hesitate to add a question into the Q&A section on this webinar. Add as many through. I will most likely just get to them at the end of the session, as my multitasking skills are not the finest right now. Okay, awesome. And if it's too fast, too slow, or you can't see anything, please give me a heads up and I will be able to change it from there. Beautiful. So I'm just going to quickly change my screens around a little bit. Beautiful. So you should be able to now see the Safe Food Pro admin console. So how I've done it just through our internal tool is I'm currently sharing our computer login here on the left and our mobile app here on the right. So this is just going to help us see both together alongside so we can see how they work together. Usually when you log into the computer login, you can do that through our website and hit the login button. That will just give you access to this gray side here on the left. You'll have to download the mobile app to have access to this side on the right. So getting straight into it, what you can see here on the left-hand side is this is what we call our admin console. So this is the back end of the system, and it's predominantly what you will use to set up your account, to monitor the reports, to use it for verification or for your audits, and to also then customize your account to make sure it's working in the way that your business needs it to work. Now, I've got people joining in today who are both from New Zealand as well as from Australia and international as well. So I'll try and cater for everyone's terminology for your compliance, but as a base standard, I'll talk about New Zealand and then try and give those options from there as well. If you do need any additional clarification, do let me know and I can help with that after today's session as well. So I'm currently on my dashboard screen. I will go into this a bit deeper at the end, but this page here is used to get an overview of everything in your account. So it's that bird's eye view to see the key things that are happening in your business for your food safety compliance, whether it's about your daily forms, your weekly forms, or your monthly forms, or getting a snapshot into how your fridge and freezer temperatures are reading at the moment. Once I fill in some forms and set up the account, we'll dive into that a bit deeper towards the end of today's session. So when you're new to Safe Food Pro, you might then want to go straight down to My Business. And this is to set up those sort of business details to make sure that your account is customized to you. A couple of key highlights here. Make sure you add your logo in at the top here. I've obviously got my gorgeous cafe logo, but this is so that when you export your reports, your company's branding is associated with it as well. From here, go through and check these details are all correct, as you would have uploaded these when you first did our initial setup wizard. Things such as who you're registered with, if you've got a specific verification or auditing company you go through, add all those details in here as well. Now, the one that's really important that I think will be really helpful for both of us is if you added in your next verification or audit date in here. Now, this one, if you add it in, we'll then be able to start sending you communications before your verification to make sure you and your team know how to access the reports and what to expect on the day. So add the date in there, and then it will then also give the staff a bit of a heads up of how many days there are till verification. Now, I know a lot of people don't know the exact date, but a rough number around, the 18 months or the 6 months since your last verification will do. Awesome. What you can also then see is all of the yes, no questions you answered when you did our initial setup wizard. So you can go through and make sure that looks right based on what your business did. Great. Quickly moving across to the right, we also have settings. For those of you who have access to this feature, this is a paid feature in some of our packs. You can set up user groups. So you might have different areas of your food business that they only need to see a certain set of forms. So I might even have some front of house forms, or I might even have some management forms. So you can set up user groups, assign some users to those forms, and then assign the relevant forms to those user groups. So that way, when those people log into the app, they'll only see those forms that are relevant to them. So you might have a monthly audit form that a manager might need to do. If they log in on their own mobile device, they can see the forms relevant for their user group, as well as the ones that are relevant for everyone as well. So if anyone wants some more information on that, please let me know and we'll be able to help give you additional information on how to actually use the feature from there. Additional to this, you can go through and review the settings to make sure they all look correct for your business. And then you can jump across to food plan details. Awesome. So on here, specifically for our New Zealand customers, this will break down the questions you answered in that setup wizard. For the New Zealand customers, you can see this here directly correlates to the colors and the phrasing based in your template food control plan. So what we've done is usually in the book that you receive when you have to go through and manually customize your food control plan, this is what you'll be able to do from here with one really simple, easy to digest document. So you can make sure the details are all correct, and then go through here and tick the boxes based on how you will customize that food control plan. Even things such as downloading your business layout here as well. You'll also then get a list of all the forms you have available to your company and what relevant section they're associated to in the food control plan as well. So make sure you go through, tick and untick this tick boxes to make sure that this is all how you guys will be performing your food control plan in your food business. Now, if you go through that list and you find that some sections aren't relevant to your business, so for example, you might see there are some sous vide questions in there and your company doesn't do sous vide, or even vice versa. There might not be anything to do with sous vide, but your company does do it. What you need to do is that just might have meant when you went through your onboarding wizard, you just got a few of those questions wrong, or they might need to be changed. Simply all you need to do is click the Edit Food Rules button and then go through those setup questions again, just to make sure that they all match what your business now does. So this can commonly happen if maybe the business owner does the initial setup and then the head chef takes it over. They might want to rerun the wizard to make sure that is exactly relevant to the food, the menu and what they're cooking in that business is. Awesome. And then from here, you can print and email this document to give to your verifier or auditor. Really quickly, we also have close dates. So if you do have set holiday periods or long weekends that you're closed for, you can add those in here so that it will display as closed on your dashboard, just like I have that here. This isn't if you are regularly closed on, say, every Monday. I'll show you how to customize that on the form section, but this is more for if you have blocks timed out for maybe the summer period or the winter period that you might be closed for. Okay, moving down, we're going to jump into suppliers now. I hope everyone's okay. Please let me know if you have any questions so far. Suppliers are here to store all of your goods and service supplier details. So for your verifiers or auditors, this is where you can home your approved supplier list. So you'll see I've already got a list of some goods and some service suppliers in here. What you can do to add a new one is click the green plus button. Now you can always add a bulk upload here by downloading our template. Alternatively, just add a new one. So a goods supplier is here that'll link to your receiving a delivery form. So that's anyone who delivers you your incoming goods. And then services are people who provide you those services. So think pest control, maintenance company, or anything from there that you want to store their details in. You can add the name of the supplier. You can add their approved supplier details if you do have those. So you can share those with your verifier or auditor. Add the contact name, a phone number, and this means from the mobile app, your staff will be able to call or email them straight from the mobile app. Add the goods supplied. You can identify what day the deliveries go on, but keep in mind this won't schedule the form for those days. And then associated with any equipment, staff, and suppliers, you can always attach resources. So if you want to upload that approved supplier documentation, or you've got previous invoices or anything there as well, you can upload that all in here and have it all stored in the one place. Click save to save that. And now you'll see it's simply added to my list. If you do need to export this, you can click the download button, or at any time hit the pencil button to edit it or the delete button to delete it. Now, if we quickly jump across to the mobile app, what that then links to is our receiving a delivery form. So if I go and complete that form, you can see when I click supplier name, all the suppliers will show up in that list for my team to easily interact with, so they don't have to remember the name and the details each time. This will also link to your visit from pest control and any additional forms that use the supplier list answer type. Now, if I click up the top here on the menu from the mobile app, I can also see all of my suppliers and their details in here too, and add them on the fly from the mobile app if I have that correct access. Great, so that is suppliers. Moving on to equipment. To set this up, it's the exact same. So now that you've learned the basics, now you're in equipment, it's very easy on how to use it. Equipment is here to store all of your fridges, freezers, and hot holding equipment. So anything used for temperature checks, as well as also any equipment that's used to store maintenance. So if you have equipment that you regularly maintain or need to keep track of, upload it in here so you have it all stored in the one place. Now, exactly the same as before, you can add a piece of equipment through that plus button, and then you can go through and set it up the details. So I'm going to add a walk-in chiller today. You can add serial number, description, but just make sure that name is something your staff can identify, as that's the name they'll see in their temperature checks. added, what's this called? Equipment category. And that's going to be, either your freezer. You can also select refrigeration or hot holding, for example. If you added your maintenance supplier, you can then either choose from the drop-down list of suppliers, or if it's just an internal check, select internal. If you want to get a reminder on your equipment, you can choose how often you would like to get reminded. I might want to get reminded every 6 months here. To ensure you do get that reminder, make sure you select the last maintenance date. So now I'll get reminded 6 months after the 1st of July. Awesome. So because I selected the freezer equipment category, what it's done is it's auto-populated some equipment settings. Now, this is also going to happen if you select refrigeration or hot holding. And this means these are the required boundaries of when I'm completing my temperature check form that the answers will sit in. So if I add a temperature warmer than 15 degrees, I will get a warning value. Same with if I enter one colder than -22 degrees, I will get a lower warning value, which I'll then have to interact with and explain why it's out of that range. Awesome. If you do have sensors, you can set up your wireless temperature sensors here as well. Again, if you need support on that, please reach out to us and we're more than happy to help. And again, resources. So this time, equipment manuals, equipment instructions, previous equipment inspection checks, upload them all here and you'll be able to see it all from the one place. Now, what we can see here, if we jump across to the mobile app now, is if I go to my temperature checks form, I can see that all of my refrigeration and freezer equipment has automatically pulled through to this form. So that means you don't have to manually set up your temperature check forms. This will do all the hard work for you as long as you set up your equipment. So now when I enter in a temperature check, if I add it in the correct temperature boundaries, that will approve my answer. However, if I add it slightly hotter than that temperature boundary specifies, that will pop up with a warning message notifying me to engage. And I could even add a corrective action to notify someone in my team to do something because of this. Now, this here is quite a lot of information to digest. So if this is too much, do not worry. Just make sure you get the equipment set up first, and then you can engage with the mobile app from there. But sometimes it's good just to see how it links and how it all joins together. Awesome. I'm just going to save this form as a draft so I don't take you through a whole temperature check form, but you should be able to understand that side now. Really quickly as well, in the menu, you can also access all of your equipment. You can see in red which ones are overdue for maintenance, and you can also edit or add it there if you have the correct permissions from your user profile too. If you did then want to do your maintenance, you can go to our ad hoc section. It's as simple as searching for maintenance and then completing your regular equipment maintenance register form. This will then link in your equipment list and for you then to explain what's happened and if it's okay and if it needs to be checked again. That will then feed back to this page to show the last time you did that equipment maintenance too. All right, we're looking pretty good for time so far. So please let me know if you have questions, but I hope so far we're smooth sailing, because we're about to move on to the beast of the system, and this is our forms. So before I move on, same as suppliers, edit is the pencil button, delete is the bin icon, and you can export this list here as well. Forms. Okay, so forms is the absolute crux of Safe Food Pro, and this is where you can store all of your food safety templates for your staff to then engage with on the mobile app. So what I can see here is if I was brand new to Safe Food Pro, I would have a list of all of these forms, just like I do now. Now, these forms have all been chosen for you based on the questions you answered in that onboarding wizard you went through with us. So for example, if you said yes to cooling, you would have received some cooling food forms. If you said yes to using thermometers, you would then receive your thermometer calibration forms. So what's really important is to have a quick look through here and make sure everything looks correct. Again, as I said before, if you don't have a form you expect to have, for example, cooling, you'll just have to go back to My Business, go back to that food plan details and edit the food rules to make sure you then answer those questions correctly. Awesome. So these forms are all in here templated based on your food control plan for our New Zealand customers. And then you can customize them if you are a global customer as well. What you can see is the green icon means that it's a form that has been given to you from us as one of our default forms. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click this scheduled button here just to see all of the forms that I currently have scheduled. So what I would do if I was first and new to SafeFood Pro is you want to look through these forms to make sure they are relevant, as well as customizing the schedule of them and maybe the contents of a few of them. So for example, I might want to change the schedule of one of my forms. So again, the pencil button is to edit. So I might find that I don't actually have a bathroom in my facility. So I'm going to click the pencil button because I want to turn this form off. So here I can see the form settings, and this is where I can make all of those changes. So I will change this daily scheduled here and change that to none. So it's no longer showing on my daily, weekly, or monthly tabs anymore. Now I could leave it just as that, as you might find that, especially if you could move around a bit, or you might have changed venues, you might find that you need to access this sometimes. So this button here means it's an ad hoc form, and that means it'll show up in this list here, which is like your form library. So you can access those forms as and when you need to. However, for this one, I'm not ever going to do a bathroom check. So I'm going to turn that form off completely. So it's none, and that toggle there is gray. So it's got nowhere to show up on the mobile app. I'm then going to click save, and that form's then going to disappear from my list. Now, if you do ever need to bring it back, you can just click show unused forms, and you can see the forms I've turned off have those red triangles. So I might change my mind. I might then want to bring that form back. I might want to change it to a daily form. From here, I might even want to change the time this form shows up. So I know I might need to do my bathroom checks at 8 a.m. to make sure the closing shift had cleaned them correctly. I'll click the plus button here. Currently, this form will show up twice, once at 8 and once at 12. So I'll exit the 12 to make sure it just shows up in the morning. However, I might find that I need my team to check the bathroom at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. So I could add those checks in to show up twice in the day as well. I also might know that my business never opens on a Monday, so I can turn that off for all of my daily scheduled forms. Awesome. So now I can see in here that my bathroom checks, if I just search for them, is now only scheduled for the days I'm open. It's going to show up twice a day at 8 and at 2. Great. So that is scheduling a form. So look through all of the daily ones specifically to make sure that, one, they're not all open on every day if your business isn't. So I will untick Monday for all of my daily forms. You also might then want to change the time to make sure your team are guided in the right way. Now, if you're focusing on time, I might then want to change. So this is my end of day closing checklist. I might want to change this one to later in the day. So say my team ends the day by 7, but I know they always forget the end of day forms because they're rushing to get out. So what I want to do, so I'll take the Monday off, is I want to add a form reminder on. And again, this is only for some of our packs, but you can set an alarm to show up on their tablet. So I'm going to create my own reminder. I'm going to call this a 5-minute reminder, a 5-minute warning. And then I'm going to do 5 minutes. So this means 5 minutes before 7 p.m., my team are going to get notified to remind them to complete that form. Now that could be okay with me, but I also then might want to take it a step further. So I might want to send an escalation if that form is not completed on time. So you might find the staff are getting reminded, but then they're so busy cleaning that they don't actually then remember to do it. So it always gets left not completed. So I could create an escalation. I could say that I'm happy to wait 30 minutes, but if it's not completed within 30 minutes, I want it to send an email to my email to let me know. Or you could also do a push notification when it's sent to remind people again, and you can continually have this on repeat and snooze it after a certain amount of times too. So feel free to explore that feature. It's a really great way to get engagement from your whole team as well. If anyone was using those user groups, this is where you can then set them up. So if this is just one of those management forms, then select that. So it'll only show up for the users that are in that user group. Awesome. I'll save that one. Now, last but not least of what you want to do is then go through and customize a few of these forms. So I guess before we jump into that, you will see that there are also monthly options for scheduling. So you'll find your thermometer checks are in here for calibration. They're scheduled for monthly, but on certain months throughout the year, as it's, every few months. Same for weekly as well. You'll then also see all these ticks here down the side. These are all of your ad hoc forms. So all of the ones with this green toggle turned on. And those again are the ones that show up in this plus button. Now, those forms are our really important forms, as we find that people, because they're not scheduled to show up every day, can tend to sometimes forget about them. But these are really important forms, such as your proving the method forms. So for your cooling, if you're following the new New Zealand rules, the cooling and the reheating, as well as your proving cooking, you will find those proving method forms where you have to prove that method multiple times if you're doing the once a week checks. So you'll find those in the ad hoc list, as you only complete them as a one-off. You'll also find your staff training. So you'll go through and make sure your team are doing their inductions. For our Australian customers, you know that you now need to do those inductions before they start their work. So they can go through and complete their inductions and any other additional important training forms as well. And finally, things like troubleshooting. So any customer complaints, incident logs, recall checklists, everything will be in that ad hoc list. So it's important to make sure your staff know how to find that as well. All right, just checking time. Beautiful. So from here, what we can then do is customize a few of the forms. I won't dive too deep into this, but the main forms you'll want to customize are probably your cleaning checks and maybe your beginning and end of day checks to customize them to your business processes. So to customize a form, I'll click the pencil button, and then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom until I get to form design. Now, what I can see is this is a list of all of the questions in my form, and I can simply click on it to open it, click on the text, backspace it, and add additional text to customize it to suit me. You can then choose from, I think, around 32 different answer types. So I can go through and select what answer types are relevant to this question, whether it's multi-choice, whether I need them to add a photo. I might then need them to select from a list of staff or resources or suppliers. So have a good look through here to make sure you know it's the best answer type for your team. And most importantly, if they need to answer that question, toggle that as required so that it is the key question they have to engage with. If you want to add a new question, go here to this toolbar. Depending on how zoomed in you are or how small your computer screen is, it might also show at the bottom of the screen here, but I'll just click a question to add a new one. I might also need them to mop the floors, and I'm going to choose the answer type of checkbox and add a prompt saying done. Now I need them to do this every day, so I'm going to make sure this is required. What I'm also then going to do is I'm going to add a collapsible panel here, as I need to show the instructions on how to mop the floors and what chemicals they need. So I'm going to add that collapsible panel and just drag it on top of that by holding my mouse down and dragging upwards. I could say how to mop the floors. And then I could say, use the mop in the back room. And then explain the chemicals from there, which I won't go into now. So that's all stored in here. If it's ever in the wrong order, just hold the mouse down and reorder it that way. And you can also do additional things such as adding section headers for titles or instruction text to explain things further. But for now, I'm just going to click save, as now I've then updated that form. Awesome. That will then straight away update on the mobile app. So you can then see in here as well, if I go to my daily cleaning checks, I haven't refreshed it yet, so it won't have that new question. But you'll see I've then got, if I open this one up here and scroll down to the bottom, you can see I've got my instruction text showing up the top, my yellow collapsible panel showing here, and then my question showing here. So it's always good to have the mobile app open, save the form, check it, and make sure that's what you want it to look like. All right, so that is the setup. That's a lot of information. Once you know you've got all of that good to go and you've logged into the mobile app, you then need to add your staff. So there are two ways to use SafeFood Pro, but the main way that we recommend is by having a tablet that's centralized in your kitchen, whether it's 1 or 2, depending how large you are, or even more than 2. But a tablet as a shared device is definitely the best option that we recommend. So what you want to do is add a user. So this one here is a user with a login, and this is what you'd have for your staff to log into the tablet. So you can create a user. Preferably it's a generic email address. So I could call it support@safefoodpro. Oh goodness, my spelling.com. And you can set a password here. From there, select the user role. So you can add additional admin who have access to the back end. You can add your verifier with a view-only access so they can access your reports. Or you can add a tablet person who just has access to the mobile app. So their only responsibility is filling in those forms. I could then call this the back of house tablet. And then I can click save from there. So what that's going to do is that's going to create us a generic login that will log into the tablet. So you could even put the login details on a little post-it note on the wall. In case it logs out, your staff can easily log in. From there, what you want to do is then add your staff. So this then means that your staff don't have to always reset their password. They don't have to remember login details and a password. They just need to know their PIN number. So you can then add a staff member, add any additional details that you want to store, and then assign them a PIN number, whether it's their birthday or a specific code that they are, are happy with. What that means is once they go to the already logged in tablet, whether it's on the wall in your kitchen, all they need to do when filling in a form is when they click Save Final, because they're a staff, their name will show on this list. They'll select their name, and then all they need to remember is that 4-digit PIN number. Now I'm added a few times in here, so I think this is the right one for this person. Yep. But that's all they need to remember, and you can go back to their profile to check that to make sure that's correct at all times. Awesome. Now, if you are adding any admin users or managers who need to have access to reports or to customization of your account, then you might then want to go a step further. So you can add them as an admin. What you can then also do is set up user notifications. And now these are really important as they help really centralize everything so that you're staying on top of the things you need to know about. So for example, when I filled in that temperature check and I explained that the temperature was too warm, you could get notified when your temperature is out of bounds. So I always recommend email, as sometimes you can miss push notifications, but you could even get both. You also might want to be notified when a blue note's added. So if someone's added a note to a form explaining maybe they've run out of cleaning supplies or something out of the ordinary has happened on site, you could get notified when the blue notes happen too. So have a look through these. You can also then set up your equipment maintenance reminders to make sure you do get notified. Or if you've got those supplier certificates, you could get notified of those here as well. So do ensure you set that up to make sure that the right people are in the know about the right things. If your staff or your business does need to have everyone on their own mobile devices, then all you'll need to do is the same process, but set everyone up as users and just have them all as tablets so they all have their own email address and password for their own mobile device. If you need any questions on that, please let me know, as I'm happy to help. Last thing on here is jumping across to resources. So you can add training certificates against all of your staff. So if I click the file icon here and go down to certificates and permits, I could say this person is first aid qualified and even put the expiry date of that certain qualification here so I can get reminded when it's due to renew. Okay, there's been a lot of talking. Does anyone have any questions so far? But if not, I will just quickly walk through the mobile app before we wrap up. So the mobile apps here on the side, we have all of our daily forms here that we just scheduled. I can see this form is not completed as it's got the pause icon, whereas this form is complete as it's got the green tick. I can then find all of my weekly forms and my monthly forms here as well. And then, as I mentioned before, all of my ad hoc forms for training, troubleshooting, proving methods, and everything. On this one here, you can also favorite the ones you know you're going to use the most, so that they show up at the top of the list for the device that you're currently logged in on. Now, for anything else, you'll find it all here in the menu icon. So things such as if you have any corrective actions that have been logged, you can view everyone's corrective actions here depending on your login access. And they can even take you straight to the specific form, depending on the level of access that you have. From here, you can also see your saved forms. So any form that you've completed in the last year, you'll be able to view on the mobile app, whereas the computer will store all of your records. And you'll be able to go back and finish the forms off at a later date. So for example, you might be halfway through your staff sickness form, you need to update it later, go to save forms, find it and sign it off later. Beautiful. That is everything for the mobile app. Feel free to check your settings if you want dark or light mode, or you want to play around with a few of the settings here, but it's good to know where that menu icon is so that you're not losing it and you know how to navigate through everything. Great. So now that we have done all of that work, what we can now see is my dashboard's really coming to life. So I can see down my activity stream here. Well, first of all, I've got my date range at the top that's showing the last 7 days. You can also look at this month or a custom range if I'd like to. I can see I just completed my daily pest check. I started it at 11:02. That's why the pause icon's there. And I finished it at 11:02. And I can click on it to see the answers. And I can even print and email it from here too. I could also see in here that that temperature check had an issue. I can see that corrective action. I could even mark it as done and even add a note to say maintenance said fridge was okay. So you're really closing a loop and having that full centralized view of how your compliance is tracking at all times. I can use my daily schedule to see what hasn't happened. So I can click this button here to see that 2 days in a row, temperature checks weren't completed. So what I might want to do is then send a message up the top right corner to my team to make sure that they are always doing those temperature checks. Or I might want to set up an escalation for that form. For the rest of it, you can then see all of your maintenance dates, supplier certificates, staff training certificates, and more. Lucky last thing is your reports, and this is where you will host your verifications or audits. The best page to go to is your form reports page, as this will have everything you need all in the one place without having to jump around. Now you want to change the date range first. That is the most important, as you want to make sure you're looking at the correct set of data. And then from there, you can have a look at what forms have been completed. So I can see I've done 4 daily cleaning tasks. Click the green icon and I can see all of those cleaning tasks here as well. So that's your reports. I don't want to go too much into it, as I know we have covered a lot of information today. So yeah, but I'm happy to, if anyone did have questions about reports, we will do a webinar specifically on reports, but yeah, please let me know. Does anyone have any questions? I will just change my screen so that we can go back to the slideshow page as well. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions that I can help with? Anything that they've popped up, anything they're concerned about? Otherwise, we can jump onto the final section of this webinar. Great. Well, so just to recap, there is going to be this webinar every single week. So if you find that you've now learned a lot, it was way too much to digest in one session, please come back next week and you can tick off another thing off your list. Awesome. Just reading Alana. Thanks for coming through, Alana. Oh, great questions. How do you make sure you know about the forms webinar and the weekly ones? So this is the perfect segue that I needed. I'll just quickly stop sharing so I can show you our video education center if you haven't seen it already. Just give me 2 seconds while I find my way through my millions of screens that are open. So we've just launched this video education center that is still going to be developed even further. So if you have feedback on it, I'm very happy to hear it, as it's literally here to help hopefully make your lives easier using Safe Food Pro. But if you go onto our website, you'll then be able to go to resources and go down to video education center. So what you can see here is a very zoomed in photo of my face, but you can sign up for these webinars and you'll be able to choose to sign up for, every week ongoing. We will then be launching those monthly webinars very soon. So we'll send an email out to everyone And you'll also get a little in-app pop-up on the admin console, letting you know that those have been launched as well. Once you're in here as well, we'll also then have all of our quick videos. So if you just need to help engage your staff, or you have someone who's maybe just responsible for setup, then you can send in the specific videos they need to. Same for anything for those bigger features. So the user groups, there's information here, corrective actions and everything, even on reporting. And we'll be continually updating these to make sure they're super engaging and super helpful for you as well. Right down the bottom though is where we'll be storing our previous webinars. Now we do have some quite old ones in here for your knowledge. So there is a mastering form building one in there too. So please go and watch that, as it does have some good content in it. But you'll be able to find all of the recordings for these webinars stored in there as well. Lastly, from the computer login too, you will also have this little help button down here. And I'll just make sure I'm sharing it. Yeah. So you can always jump in and search for a specific question you might have. So this gives you insights on verification, your dashboard, or please just message our support team. Josh will get back to you most of the time, and he is fantastic. But a lot of our team jumps in there to help everyone out as well. Awesome. Thanks, Raveen, for your question. So delivery checks, how often should you do and record? So I guess from our end, we're not specifically verifiers, so we don't want to give advice. So I would recommend to check your template food control plan. It does depend where you're based, and I unfortunately can't see if you're from New Zealand. So if you let me know if you're from New Zealand or from Australia, I'd love to know just so I can help. But it's usually whenever you have those high risk foods, beautiful. Usually when you have those high risk foods come in, you do need to log each time they come in, specifically so that you can log the temperatures of them to make sure they're coming in the correct range. However, I'm not a verifier. I'm happy to send you the correct area of the food control plan. And feel free to check with your verifier as well, but I'll send that to you after today's session to make sure that you've got all the information you need. Great. Are there any other questions in here that I can help with? No worries. Okay, awesome. So that is everything. I think from memory, there might be a survey popping up at the end. So if you have ideas for future webinars, future videos for our Video Education Centre, or you just want to join in every week, please bring your whole team if you'd like to train them on it. We're very happy to help, and we just want to make sure you all have everything you need to have really successful audits, verifications, and just a really safe food business as well. So thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. See you later.